Okay. Well, hello, everybody, future listeners. Welcome to our first ever podcast episode. And I thank you very much, Shane Coote, for coming along to talk to the listeners and future listeners about yourself and your career. And I suppose give us some insights into business that you're in, your career, and, just general tips and tricks for anybody out there that's interested in the industry, but also just business in general, and what you've done and how you've got to where you are, and just a general conversation about things that might help people in the future. So thank you very much for coming. If you
Thanks,
want to
mate.
just give yourself a brief introduction about you and what you do, great.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for having me, Paul. I love talking about myself, so it was an easy invitation to accept. My name's Shane. I own a business on the shore, Raywhite Mairangi Bay. We're part of the Raywhite Real Estate Group, and we've got a territory in Mairangi Bay, which has got its challenges at the moment with the market, but we're certainly kicking goals. We certainly were last year, and planning on taking another level up this year. But yes, that's me. Been doing real estate for pretty much all I've ever done. It's about the only thing I'm good at, so I'm lucky I found that. Been in it for sort of almost 20 years, 19 years selling, and about 15 as an owner. 14 or 15 of those 20. So that's sort of a little bit about me.
That's good. That's definitely a career, and it's sort of straight out of school, wasn't it? First career.
Yeah, so I came out of school. The original plan, as I was thinking about maybe becoming a lawyer, anything that involved talking, I think was sort of going to be my avenue. But yeah, sort of went and did the year off and came back. I actually did a billionaire in training is what it was called. I don't know if you know Brad Sugars, but he's quite a famous entrepreneur in Australia, and he has this week-long course that he does in Australia, where you're up till 4 in the morning, and then you're up again at 7. Like it's sort of almost it's very immersive. And I did that. My dad took me along to that with him, and when I was about 19, and that sort of got the entrepreneurial juices flowing. And there was a lot on property within that in that course. And so when I came back, I set the sales ticket for real estate, and got stuck into that, and sort of haven't looked back since. So more or less, I know I've had other jobs, but pretty much all I've ever done is real estate.
Yeah, that's full career. I suppose it sounds like it's one of those pieces where if you start at a young age, I feel you've got less inklings to sort of try and change your career path in the future, because you get that you don't have as much pressure, because obviously within the industry it's more commission based. So I suppose it's more you have to get out there and sell yourself and the businesses to get obviously the houses, but then also the sales as well. So it's quite a personal industry, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think as well, like I always tell when I'm hiring new people, I always tell them that real estate, like business as well, like a new business startup, it's a marathon run, not a sprint race. You're not there to earn $1 million in the first year, although you can, and it's great if you do. You're sort of setting the foundations for some later rewards. And so for me, once I started and put that groundwork in place over the first year or two, it was like, why would I go elsewhere? I put all this hard work in, now I've got to start getting the spoils. So and each year gets better than the last. So that's the sort of journey, really. That's
definitely a good point, and it'd be interesting across the future podcast with other business owners that setting those foundations is the key thing. And I don't know until we talk to more people, but it'd be interesting to see the difference in the generational gap, obviously, with what people are doing now and the sort of instant famous stuff. And do they understand that you have to have a foundation for your brand, as in your personal brand, to sell your future? What does happen when it sort of just stops? Can you weather the storm, I suppose, is the questions. Do you have like backstops in place? Because if you don't get paid, you don't get paid, do you? It's one of those industries to navigate.
Yeah, I mean, not really. I think you got to give something your all. You don't want to sort of go in half-assed and then have a little bit of an exit plan just in case. I mean, that's good when you're investing. I think you've got to have a plan B. But if you're going to get yourself stuck into a career and make something of it, I think you want to go in, full noise with your whole heart. And I think if you have faith that it'll work, and you believe that inherently in every part of you, it will. If you're sort of doubting it somewhere inside you, then it probably won't happen. And that's when you probably at some point go, well, this is not the right career for me. I need to go elsewhere. So yeah, I mean, when I did start, I sort of kept a part-time job just as I was learning the ropes. I was only 21, so I was still living with mum and dad. Bit sad, really. So I didn't have those major money pressures early on, but there was no other. It was either real estate or broke. That's what I was going to make it or not.
All in, which is good,
Yeah.
which is very good. Which I suppose sort of goes into, you talk about you're going to immerse yourself like fully in it. There's obviously points where stress comes up. Have you got like a plan where you try and manage yourself to make sure you don't hit those points, and managing your headspace, etc.?
Yeah. So you mean aside from beer?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, having that time, having that time to sort of go out and catch up with, some mates, play a game of golf, and have a few beers afterwards. That's really key, because in real estate and in business, it can be all consuming. Once you're finished at 5 o'clock, you haven't actually finished. You've still got so many things on your mind about clients you're looking after or things you've got to do. And so it's very hard to sometimes be present with your family at home or your partner when you've got all that stuff racing around your head. So you do need to probably set aside those times for, going out for dinner with your partner and going having a game of golf or some beers or whatever it might be that you need to do. For me, I train. I like to go to the gym every day, and I have a bit of time to get that done, an hour a day. But I also do a lot of work on myself. I do a lot of affirmations, visualizations, bit of breath work is coming to things now. So there's all those little things that I do to sort of try to make sure I achieve my goals, but also have that time to get quiet time, so that the stress doesn't take over. But in saying that, it is hard. So you're still going to have those days where you throw a tantrum because you're just so overwhelmed, and they still happen now. So yeah, I haven't mastered it yet, put it that way.
Yeah, I don't think anyone ever will master that. When we have a career, I suppose it's similar principles, but when you allow that extra bit of business and family life, and with the real estate, from my point of view, it ends up being there's a bit of a blurred line as well between work and home, and especially when you're doing investments as well on the side. Like you're balancing so many balls. It's actually quite amazing when you think about it. You take a step back. Yeah. So
I mean, we do have, my partner has that sort of that grizzle with me every now and then when we're doing something and I'm checking text or replying or taking a phone call. So I think it is one of those jobs that I'm really passionate about what I do. When someone comes to sell their house with our company, then I'll do whatever it takes to get them a result, and that's what our team does. But you can manage it so that, okay, well, if I'm not available for this afternoon because I'm going to go out and have some downtime and be present for it, then I've got one of my team that's going to cover me for that time, and then you help them out in return. So it's just having those systems in place so that you do have that time away from your phone. Otherwise, it'll just never end, right?
That's a good segue into having the support, I suppose, and bringing younger people into the industry, and how do you sort of give them that support and direction, I suppose, because the industry's different. It's like there is training, you do a course, but then it's sort of real life sort of process, isn't it, to just work out how you need to be personable, how you meet people, how you get the property. Have you got like a structure you put in place to help support?
Yep. So we do have at our office. Look, I think actually, just take a step back. I think I've got a lot better at being a boss over the last 18 months than what I was previously. I think my company before 2021 was all about Shane, and it's all about supporting Shane and his journey to sell houses. But I think the long-term payoff of that, there's not a lot of leverage, and also that's not a cool way to run a business. It's nice to empower others and watch them grow as well. And so the last 18 months I've really put a lot of work into becoming a better coach and a better manager. And it's really that part of my roles now was really filling my cup, seeing these people achieve and seeing the help that I'm giving them actually be of use to them. So for me, yeah, we've put a lot of work into that. We've got more support at the office now. We've got regular scheduled times that I'll sit down and talk with the team. And then when a new person comes on, we've got a bit of a system in place where different members of the team will help them with different aspects, and I'll be there to catch up with them weekly to make sure they're on track with everything, to answer those bigger questions. Yeah, so I think we've definitely got some good structures in place now. I think as a boss, in my industry anyway, I think being a good coach in terms of being able to teach them that high level stuff. I'm not very good at teaching them the basic stuff, so that's why I'll give it away to someone else who's got more patience for that at the office. But that more high level stuff, taking their business to the next level, that's where I think I can come in pretty handy. And I think the other role of for me as a manager or a boss is to be a good motivator, to be someone who inspires them to get up and get to work. And I think, you know, I say every now and then on a Monday morning when we do our team meeting that I get to be Anthony Robbins for an hour, because that's more or less what we're trying to do, is just get the team fired up and get us all on the same page and to go out and kick ass for the week. So yeah, in a long-winded way, hopefully that answered your question, but we've got systems in place for sure.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So, you know, obviously people watching this are interested in the career path, you know, it is. And with all businesses, you know, there's going to be a different avenue for different people to get into there, but you need to make sure that at the same time you have a support and you have training, you know, because you want to find that passion. If you are really interested in the career path in real estate, you know, I'm sure everybody doesn't have the same passion as you, or the, you know, the years of experience or the structure. So it's a good point that even with any career, you know, you want to make sure that you are happy within your business, in that, you know, business that you're working for, and they are developing it at the same time, you know, having the positivity around you. So it's amazing, isn't it? And that whole cup, filling your cup up, is a very good analogy of life, really, isn't it? Because the balances come and go, but you want to make sure you're always trying to top it up to keep it those levels high, making sure, you know, you're achieving what you want to do. And that's you know, that's another good point. Is I do a lot of reflection on the past, you know, years or quarters, and when I was doing a lot of leadership, because now I'm in a team, I don't have any team under me. I do a lot of reflection for them, but it helps me sort of develop them in reflection, you know, because if you don't know what your goals were, and if you don't know if you've hit them or where you've ended up with them, you're never going to learn anything. It's yeah, which is good for you, because you could check back the data and sales in different quarters. You know, there's a lot of analysis that can be done and supporting of, you know, how people have done, because yeah, if you don't look back, you're like, I haven't done anything for this long, but you know, there is proof in the pudding that people have done very well.
Yeah,
which is very good.
The goals thing's big. I mean, we do a lot of, as an office, and me personally, a lot of goal setting. And it's almost like it's goal setting, but it's just the mission. You know, you got to have a mission in place, and we even had code words for our mission for the quarter or whatever. And you know, we have a mission for the day, even sometimes a mission for the week, and so whatever you give your energy and focus to, you're likely to create or achieve, right? So I think having goals and stuff in place, and you know, missions that are all sort of aligned with each other for a bigger goal, very key for us anyway.
Yeah, very, very good. The other point you talked about earlier is motivation, and I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of sort of all types of facets, read a lot of books. Something that's come up a lot recently was interesting is the motivation. You've got to have the motivation to do something, but you've got to have the discipline. And you know, the structure that you just said you've put in place actually helps, you know, discipline for the team members. They know they're going to have a meeting, they're going to be prepared. You know, structure like that is great, you know, for growing yourself and everybody else. So it's interesting. People don't talk about discipline enough. They talk about motivation, and motivation is like a point in time. I've read this affirmation and I'm sort of moving through it, and then you forget it in 10 minutes and you sort of dropped off the wagon. Yeah. So
motivation, discipline, I reckon, will come naturally.
Yeah.
If you're motivated enough. So like for me, often when I'm focused on something that I'm trying to achieve, like I'm up at 4 a.m. and I don't even want to get, just like I'm excited to get out of bed and get back into what I was doing. And that's we talk a lot about why at our office as well. So if you're just going and trying because you want to do well, you know, you're going to have those days where you can't be bothered getting out of bed. But if you've got a why where you're like, I want to achieve this, and there's nothing else that's more important than achieving whatever this is, whether it's a beautiful home for your family, or, you know, putting your kids through college, or getting a beach house, or or just, I don't know what it is, but it's just something that inspires you enough that, and you set out a path to get you there, you're going to naturally get, that discipline's going to be there. You're going to get out of bed, racing out of bed in the morning because you've got this thing that inspiring you. So yeah, interesting point.
Yeah, it is. And that getting out of bed is a very interesting point as well. A lot of people in the world are sitting at that point, and that potentially watch this in the future and go, some days people just don't want to get out of bed, but a lot more people don't want to get out of bed because they just don't want to go to a place because they're not filling the cup up. They're not happy. And, and hopefully this whole series of podcasts that will go on forever, hopefully, is going to help people sort of break that mold and understand that, your life, you can do more in your life than, what you're currently doing. But it's not going to be easy. Hardship is always, whatever you do, there's always going to be challenges. But there is supportive networks out there. Is there information? And that's why I sort of got so deep into doing more study, because with my university, I came out of it and I had a whole different life outside electrical. So I just started reading a lot of books, and that was the pathway, I suppose, that led to this podcast, to get people like yourself to share different industries and your experiences. So it's very good. Something else that you do, and I'll touch on it if you want, but we've briefly touched on it, is investing in property. So it sort of goes hand in hand, but it doesn't at the same time, because it's a total different beast, isn't it? How did that sort of piece of the puzzle come into it for you?
So I went to my old business partner from a few years ago. He told me that he noticed a change in me when I went to this law of, I just thought of this just now, actually. Went to this law of attraction coach, and I had a session with him, and I was trying to, things were going really well, but I was trying to break into the next level. And he's one of my goals was I wanted to earn so much money a year, and he simply said, look, can we change that word earn from receive to receive, and open that up to a whole lot of different avenues. And I think that was the sort of the catalyst this was years ago, the catalyst to sort of not being too focused on the path, being more focused on what I was on the goal, and letting, the universe sort of open up some opportunities for me as well. And so then we got into a bit of investing. I've got several investment properties. We do a bit of buy and rent and resell, and we just got a development. We sold 4 of the 5, so last one to go at the moment. So we're doing a bit of that stuff as well. But yeah, have been doing that for a while, and I think, for me, it's all property based, so it's easy. I don't think you want to diversify too much, that go into areas that you don't know enough about. But I think if you have an area of expertise, don't just focus on the one avenue of income. There's going to be other opportunities if you keep your eyes open. I think is probably the lesson.
Yeah, that's a very good way to put it. A lot of people talk about side hustles, and and it makes sense if it is aligned more, with what you do. But some people have hobbies that, and end up being, like a career path on the side of their business. But I suppose maybe potentially it was because their career wasn't the correct path in the first place, and they found the path they needed to find.
Yeah.
So yeah, I suppose talking about investments, it's not always a win-win. I'm sure there's a lot of hurt and pain in that aspect, with the market. But obviously you're well aware of how the market flows. But interest rates, governments, and what sort of the economics, I suppose, of the balancing of doing investments. And it's, as you say, like a longer term. There's short-term chunks, I suppose, within that, but you've got a longer-term goal, I'm assuming, to get that. Yeah.
And the other thing is with that, we haven't won on every project. In fact, I'd probably say 10% of them have probably gone backwards, and I've lost money on. But the way you got to look at it is you got to look at the bigger picture. And if you go, well, I've done 10 deals in the last 10 buy and sells or developments or whatever in the last couple of years. I lost on 2, but I made shitloads on 8. Then your last couple of years has been really successful. So you lick your wounds after a bad one, learn the lesson, and then don't repeat it, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. Is just for everybody out there, you're never always going to win. Life is not about winning every day, and if you don't get some of that education, obviously you want to have a high percentage, as you say, like a 90, 10 is probably good. If you're winning, if you're losing a lot, then you potentially want to get some support, I suppose, mentorship about how you
What's
can
an
do it.
education? Yeah.
Education, but a bit of both. There's a lot of, as I said earlier, platforms out there, and I have a good mentor in the world that used to do COO stuff for telecommunication companies, but it's the small tips and tricks that they give you. Like one thing he said, you have to, when I moved into the company I currently work for, he said, because I was the only employee in New Zealand, he's like, you have to, the smallest things will be the things that'll trip you up and just get so under your skin. You just have to focus and go, I'm not going to let it get to me. And it did. It was weird. Like literally 2 months later, I was just like, far out. You just can't get a purchase order done because there's no like business set up properly, no bank accounts, and it's just crazy.
Yeah.
So, there's plenty of people out there, and hopefully, there will be some connectivity across, more so mentorships for people to be available to.
I think that's key as well as having, if you don't know something, learning about it. Don't just go in. You don't want to go in with no knowledge and just have a go. You gotta sort of, and people will be happy to teach you things. So go on and learn, have a go. Eventually, you're not gonna know everything before you have a go at something, but you want to have the base knowledge, and learning off other people is an easy way to get that knowledge up.
Exactly right. And obviously with this podcast, you can do as much research as possible. And I was listening to one the other day, actually. It's called the U Project. It's very good, very worth listening to. It's about psychology and all sorts of stuff.
Oh, cool.
Send you the link.
Awesome.
But he was saying the thing is, you can go and you can read and watch and listen, but if you don't actually do anything, you're never going to get the skill sets to do it. And it's quite relevant. And I say it to a lot of my team members in the past. It's it's like going for an interview for a job. It's, if you don't interview, you'll never get the experience. You'll never interview well, and you may not get every single job. It's like, but at the end of the day, you're getting more experience as long as you take that experience and utilize it well. Reflection, making sure you have the goals and they set with the goals. And also study. People go into an interview and have not even researched the company. Be like, what's this company doing? They're like, no idea. It's like, it's basic tips, eh? So
the best way to learn, I agree, is definitely by doing. There's no better way to so you want to get a base knowledge of something and then have a go at it. I was watching a Netflix thing the other night. I can't remember what her name was, but it was about courage and vulnerability. I can't remember what her name was, but her thing was, you got to get in the arena, and you're gonna fall over and get a muddy face every now and then. But you can never win if you don't put yourself in the arena. So you got to eventually take the action. Otherwise, what are you doing?
Exactly. Yeah. You can study till the cows come home, but if you don't get that little bit at the end, it's like, I don't know, the 80-20, isn't it? You got to do the hard bit to get to the easy bit to get to the hard bit, and just chunk a little bit of it, and then the rest will just flow on from there.
Yeah.
So I suppose we've talked about knowledge base and learning, and have you got anything that you sort of focus on mainly for knowledge? Like, do you read a lot of documentaries, and what's sort of your avenue?
So I like docos. I read, I used to read a lot, but I don't read as much these days, but I read every day, but little snippets. I get so many, because of all the stuff I've done in my past. I get emails every day with self-improvement stuff and all that, and if something perks my interest, then I'll have a read of it. And then often some of the things that I learn, I'll chuck into my Monday meeting as well and do a session on them, if I think they're worthy. So a lot of like daily reading, podcasts as well. Like, I'll get them and I'll put them on in the background while I'm working. So all that sort of stuff. For me, I've done a lot, and I've done a lot of courses on self-development. Everything from, I don't know if you've heard of Landmark, but it's that was probably the first thing I did years ago, probably 15 years ago, that sort of started me off on a bit of a journey of self-development courses. I've done Kura Cashley. I've done a few other courses that people would know. I've also, for me, John Kehoe, I don't know if you know him, but he's the author of a book called Mind Power, and what he teaches resonates with me so well, so deeply, that I do a lot of his stuff daily. I've been to two sort of live-in 6-day courses with him where you got really deep into this stuff. And it's all about your thoughts creating your reality, and what you believe will be what shows up for you. And training your subconscious to make sure you're thinking the right things. So for me, it's become a daily exercise now of affirmations, visualizations, reading goals, 15 minutes a day tops. But it's a key part of me continuing to achieve my goals. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's what we touched on earlier. It's having that motivation ticker, and if you really enjoy that stuff, and I do the same thing. Like you flick through a few different things on social media, and something catch your eye, and even if it's I find small chunks of podcasts that lead you to the bigger episode are always are better, because they give you like those insights. You got 15 minutes rather than listen to a lot of Joe Rogan, and he's 2 hours sometimes. Yeah. So it's a bit of a journey, but you've got to pull bits and pieces out where you can, and everyone does it differently. So I'm a big believer in the podcast now as well. I try and do different bits and pieces, but a lot of mind focus and what people have learned as well. Trying to get tips and tricks about sort of everything under the sun, to be honest. Because everyone has so many paths out there that people have taken, and they're just so interesting. And why should we sort of reinvent the wheel when people have already tried it? So I do the same thing. I've just adjusted music in times when I'm in the car to listening to podcasts. So,
I mean, you want to take the path of least resistance always. I reckon. And if you can find a way to achieve what you want to achieve by doing a few certain things that are going to help you achieve it faster, I'm all about it. So it's just finding out what works for you and sticking to that, basically.
Finding the groove, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
So I suppose there's a couple of other items. Obviously, we're talking about the industry in general, and you had a change in businesses. So you went from sort of your own entity, and then you talked about moving into the Raywhite brand, I suppose. What was how did that work, and the reasoning? And I suppose is it better? Raywhite's a huge brand, and it's quite focused on a couple of programs at the moment that are kicking around called Lux Listings. I think a lot of people follow that agent. So
cool show.
That's very cool.
The agents, probably my friends think this about me as well, but the agents on the show are a bit douchey. The houses over there, like it's so cool to see like what they, these amazing creations. So my part of my journey was I had an independent company for quite some time that I owned with a business partner of mine who sadly passed away sort of probably 3 years ago now. But it was in October, not last year, but the year before, that we made the move to Raywhite. And for me, I should have done it years ago. We had a really good business as an independent, but what we struggled, the main thing we struggled with was being able to recruit enough people into a smaller brand. And in Auckland, I never had a problem getting listings. Friends knew who I was. They knew I was good at what I did, and so that was fine. But it was getting the people in to come and work for me that wanted to work for me, but just didn't trust the fact that we didn't have a brand. And having lived in Auckland, Paul, that there's Raywhite, Barfoot's, Harcourt's that are sort of the leading brands in Auckland and New Zealand, and I think making that move, our team's gone from 9 to 20. Pretty quickly in less than a year and a half, and we're really kicking some goals. We had our best year ever in one of the toughest markets that we've been in, and so we brought all those sort of small company skills and that hustle and that that real when you're a small company, you got to be on the ball to get the listing from the big company. So we brought all that stuff with us and then matched it with the power of this this massive brand, and it's just it's been a real win for us. So we're stoked. The one other point I'd touch on here, which I thought was quite interesting, that I didn't know was going to be a payoff. The systems are great with Raywhite. The recruitment's good. The access to more conversations with potential sellers. Those are all things I knew would happen. But what I did notice is that when I came into the first business owners meeting, I came in with my chest puffed out, like I'm the man at what I do. And I heard from these other business owners. I looked at what they were doing, and I'm like, shit, I've got a lot of work to do here. And so what happens is that when you're in a big network like that, and you see someone that's doing things better than you, that now becomes possible for you. You're like, well, I can do that. And And so what you didn't think was possible is now instantly possible. And so you've just got all this area to grow into that you didn't really have when you're a little independent by yourself. So putting that into other business situations, you want to be talking to other business owners and having a beer with them. And if you can see what they're doing and you're like, wow, that's amazing what they're doing, all of a sudden that now becomes possible for you. And that's where you're gonna start to grow. Is, you know, when you realize something's possible, it generally gets achieved. So that was a big payoff that I didn't think we'd get. I wasn't aware of.
Yeah, it is good. You don't see a lot of that, I suppose, you know, going back to the Lux listings, until that sort of broken. I didn't really understand the concept of how the structure worked, and how, you know, there was obviously the larger companies and the smaller companies, and it's a business within a business that you sort of have your own, you know, rights to grow into. Obviously they have a structure. But yeah, it was very insightful. Also, the houses are amazing. So no, it was good to see. But yeah, it's a huge industry, isn't it? When you think about the volume that turns over, the amount of money that turns over, and, you know, especially for New Zealand, where, you know, your house is, you know, a lot of how you foresee, you know, the economy. If you have, you know, business confidence is based on how much equity you have in your property, and that's all relative to interest rates, you know, everything like that. And, you know, New Zealand is a small business country, so it's pretty much more undermines a lot of New Zealand's economy, doesn't it? Real estate.
100%. I mean, I think there's so many people that rely on property for their income in New Zealand, particularly, but everywhere. You know, like there's just so many. There's all the trades. There's the lawyers. There's the accountants. There's the real estate agents. There's, you know, and so it is something of interest to everyone, because in some way or another, you'll be, if property's not going too well, you'll be your industry will be affected in some way as well. So yeah. It is, you're right, it is a big talking point, and something that most people keep their eye on, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Just talking about that, it's a good segue. You're very good at this. Just sharpens me up to talk about something else. As tips and tricks, you know, like I've heard it before, and, you know, been in that position where you have to get the right support, accountants, lawyers, you know, like what's your advice on that? Because I've found that we've had an accountant that wasn't as good for the structure that we needed, and you had to move on. You know, have you been through that? What advice would you give people?
Yeah, I mean, we've moved companies in certain for certain specialists, because there has been a better specialist within that industry that's more suited to what I'm doing. So I agree. You've got to have a good team, no matter what you're doing as a business owner or as an investor, or even as just someone who's trying to make their way in an industry. You want to have the right team around. You want to have the right specialist to talk to. When I started, and you're a bit short of money, you're gonna sort of do what you can. But yeah, as soon as the sooner you can get to concentrating on what you're good at and outsourcing everything else to the people that you trust and are good at what they do, your ability to create more increases exponentially, right? So you do want to get to that position to be able to outsource things that you're not good at as soon as possible, and to the right people, for sure.
Yeah, and what I found in New Zealand is that people obviously are always on the cheap, and they always want to barter down a cost or a price, and it's like, why does it cost that much? But they haven't really appreciated the value, I suppose, that you can bring to them. And that's, you probably get it a lot with, you know, people want to go on your margins, go, well, you know, why should you make this much? You're just sort of doing these things for me. It's, people just don't understand, like, the experience. You know, you put 20 years into getting to a point where your value is exceptionally high. So yeah, that's something that, you know, you do learn the hard way. You come across things and you think, why did that happen? And we've had that issue with banks as well. You know, you have a very good bank manager, and then you want to do something, and they just don't understand. You can talk to someone else, and they're like, what? They say that makes no sense. So yeah, you got to be very careful. And I think it's that if you do have a concern, you really need to talk to someone else, you know, and it doesn't hurt, does it, really? You know?
No, 100%. I've been lucky that I've found, like, I know all the best people for what I do to support me. And I'm also quite lucky that a lot of them, you know, they're saying don't mix business with pleasure. That doesn't apply in my life whatsoever. The two are so intertwined, it's crazy, and I don't even believe in that saying, really. And I'm lucky to have a lot of those professional people around me are actually friends as well. And I think if you can find someone who you're working with, that you enjoy working with, that is the best at what they do, and you enjoy hanging out with them and having a beer with them and that sort of stuff as well, fantastic. That's the kind of person you want to work with.
Yeah, that's something else that comes up a lot, isn't it? It's that the people you associate with on a quite a frequent basis, we call it the five people that are the closest to you, sort of help develop who you are and, you know, project where you potentially can go, because they obviously have skills, that potentially are different than yours, but you can bounce ideas off stuff. But there's a lot of people that don't understand that, you know, when you have saying that bad old friends are bad, but you know, you have a colourful pasture, we say it, you only get to a point. Like, a lot of people never change because they never take a point and go, hold on, are these people the best people in my life at this point or not?
Yep.
You know, it doesn't mean you can't talk to them. It's just that means you maybe should reduce a bit of time,
Yep.
evolve into other groups, you know, as you said, you know, professionals or people that have the same type of path that you have, because it will definitely lift you up. I read a story about a gentleman in, I think he was in LA, and he was trying to start a product, well-being online, and couldn't do anything with it. He had three members, his wife, his mum, and his dad, and he moved to San Francisco, and all of a sudden met all these other people. Within 6 months, he'd had 40,000 people subscribed, just because he had that, you know, people were bouncing ideas off. He had this, so like a hub of people he could talk to, and they were more than happy to help support him grow. You know, the other people who was with just didn't understand what he was doing. They didn't have the vision that he had, didn't have the understanding of the type of platforms that he was using. But you know, he just ended up in this sort of, we should call it, business hub with friends, I suppose. So it's definitely out there, and it's quite powerful.
I think you definitely want to. I mean, there's people are going to fulfill different needs in your life as well. Like, you know, there's going to be someone that, you know, it's great to shoot some pool with and have a laugh with or whatever. And then there's going to be someone who's great to have a coffee with and talk business with as well. So they're not all, the more friends you have, the more, you know, areas of needs that are going to be fulfilled as well. I think one other point on that though is I think, so you're right, you want to mix with the right people. But I think also certainly if you're in real estate, but if you're in business at all, the more contacts you have and the more people you know, the better. Because I find, I mean, one of the keys to success for me is that I've got a lot of good friendships, and they look after me, and when they hear someone that's selling a house or whatever, they'll let us know. So, so yes, I agree with you completely, but also you never have enough friends, I reckon. That's what I reckon.
Yeah, two people, separate, so not two people, but some other people have different opinions on that. You know, it's good to have, you know a lot of people, but trying to, you know, get your time across people, especially when you've got a family, gets quite difficult. But people appreciate that though. You know, really good friends will go, well, you know, we do catch up a couple of times a year, and that's the quality time you get with that person. Send a few messages every now and again. You know, challenges get in your way, so it's one of those things. You know, some people get a bit down because they don't have enough time to do everything they used to do. You know, when the world has evolved into where they are now. But
well, I mean, now that I've got a 19, 20-month-old, I'm noticing that my available time isn't as much as it used to be. So I know what you're saying.
And it's something that you make the decision to do as well. You know, there's a lot of people that don't, you know, do that, and you know, the olden days is slightly different than it is now. You know, a lot more people dedicate themselves to their family and support, and but you know, it is a bit easier. I think there's a lot more flexibility in the world as well with work. So back to tips and tricks, I suppose. If someone wants to get into the industry, you know, what would you say is the sort of the best pathway?
So I'd think about someone that you know that's in it already. Give them a call and go have a coffee and ask some questions. Shout them the coffee, because but that's what you do when you go and take someone's time.
You do.
Yeah, you know, it's a good look. I mean, whenever I go to meet someone who's in business, that's got, you know, I met someone the other day, and their business is going nuts, and they're in construction, and I went to his office and I took the coffee to him because I wanted to you know, pick his brain on a few things. So yeah, so that's the first thing. But go and ask some questions. If you're in New Zealand, the next step, if it sounds pretty cool, is just go and do your course. It takes about 3 months if you motor through it, and you can do it as correspondence. And the only way you're going to know if it fits for you or not is, you want to trust your gut. So if it feels like it's something that you think you should have a go at, then, you know, trust your gut. But you're going to work, when you get into real estate, you're either going to sink or swim. It's either going to suit your skill set and the amount of drive you have and all the rest of it, or it's not. And you're going to find that out reasonably quickly. And if it doesn't work out, you need to try something else, then, you know, you would have learned some lessons and you move on. If it does work out, it could be the best thing that ever happened to you. If you do get into real estate, you want to try and go to an office where there's going to be an opportunity to get a lot of support from the owner or a lead salesperson within the office, maybe working with them, because the best way to learn in real estate is by doing. And if you can sort of do some of the dog work for one of the more experienced salespeople at the office, you're going to learn a lot. You're going to have your face on a signboard maybe, and you're going to probably get a little bit of cash in your pocket without even having to find your own leads. But you're going to have to do that grunt work for them. And yeah, I think that's the main things really. I go through that process and yeah.
Would you be concerned, and obviously you have a different view on the market than most people, but when people see, so you want to be a real estate agent, you're like, yeah, the market's a bit tough at the moment, you know, I should probably wait, you know, what's your thoughts on that? Is it anytime's good? Yeah,
I reckon anytime's good. I think no matter what the conditions, it's you know, I always sort of use the saying a lot, you know, it's you just got to play the hand you're dealt the best you can. So whatever the market is, you just got to work out how to play that the best. And if the market's quiet and there's a lot of listings and they're not selling quickly, it could be a really good time to set up your business, because you're going to get your face on some signboards, you're going to get a lot of experience, and you're going to set yourself up for that year two, which might be a little bit more of a boomer, and you're going to have all those skills. So yeah, so that's sorry, I could just hear my little one yelling at my office door, so apologies, I'm getting put off. But yeah, so no, I don't think there's a time. Sorry, mate, I'm just going to just once again what the state of the market is. If the market's booming, obviously that's probably going to be naturally an easier time to sell properties, but there's going to be less listings. So every market has its pros and cons.
And less time to sort of take the time to understand the foundations you need as well, because everyone's going to be hustling up real fast, won't they? Things will be moving too quickly. So
yeah, I think a slow market's not a bad time to set up a business, but it's probably not set up the foundations for a good real estate business, but it's probably not a good time to enter if you're desperate for money. You want to probably sort of think about, hey, let's put the groundwork in this year so that year two I'm off. That's the way I'd look at it. So, I guess no matter what the state of the market, you've got to have the right plan to get the most out of it. So yes, you can start anytime. One other point I just quickly make as well, and I say this to everyone that I'm about to employ, the most important thing about getting into real estate, attitude is everything. If you've got the attitude that you're going to work and you'll do what it takes to succeed, your earning potential is near limitless. And if you're willing to do the things that the guy from the office down the road is not willing to do, you're going to get the business over him. And if someone's selling more than you in the market, that means there's something that you're not doing that they're doing, and you just got to work out what that is and do that, and you'll get the business. So I think if you're getting into real estate, having that whatever it takes kind of attitude is you'll be great.
Yeah, I think most people should take that attitude into everything, but
yeah,
it's good.
I agree. Yeah,
so you got to tell people, you know, especially, you know, we were younger once, and you're like, yeah, I don't want to do that today, but you got to take that procrastination away. Yes. So I suppose the other question isn't that you don't have to answer it, but you know, obviously people want to understand. You know, you talk about there's potential retainers. I suppose touched on it earlier. Didn't use the word retainer. I do. You know, what is the potential earning for someone that can do well in the first few years? Because obviously it's going to be a rising target, I suppose, of income.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, so I've been doing this sort of 19, 20 years now. I think my first year I earned like $4,000 or something. I mean, that's because I was putting a lot of money back into what I was doing, you know, because my expenses were high, and I was more interested in setting up that first year so that the next year would be a boom. Next year, I think I might have, and I'm only 21, 22 at this point. Next year, I think I might have earned 70K. 20 years ago for a 20, 21, 22-year-old, that's not bad. So my gamble paid off. Next year, I think it might have been more like 250, and then it's just gone up since then. So, I mean, I mean, the top agent in the Raywhite network. I think he brought into office about $6.5 million. He's not a business owner; he's just an agent. He's the top, like he's a machine. So if you're the top of your field, it is kind of limitless. There's no real ceiling on it. But I mean, any sort of if you're in the top sort of 10% of your industry, you're going to be earning $500,000 after all your expenses and that sort of stuff, plus. But then if you're no good, you're going to earn nothing. So that's where it comes down to sort of working out over that first 6 to 12 months. Am I good at this? Do I like this? Am I going to give it what it needs? Because you're going to have to make a lot of sacrifices to make those figures as well. So
it's huge, isn't it? There's one that's based in New York, and there's a guy, and it's huge. I think his name's Ryan. I follow him. Can't remember his last name, but he's the same thing. He commits so much of his time, and he sort of adjusts between where he needs to be because he's got businesses somewhere else, I think in America, and you're like, his life is real estate, but he's selling $100 million properties and stuff like that. So it's an interesting show to watch, and it is definitely, I suppose, it's another avenue if you pick up a real estate program to look into. The core concepts are there, but I suppose don't get blown away by all that magic that goes on, because they don't show you the graft in the background to show you the nice houses and people selling them, but that's not always the case, is it?
Yeah, and to be honest, some of those shows they're awesome to watch, and it looks like such a cool life to be a real estate agent. But they do glamorize the hell out of it. So it's not all driving around in Lamborghinis and drinking coffee and
Range Rovers and
meeting beautiful cougars at their house to sell their house, and this is the $1 million listing programs in the LA. I mean, if it's something that you really enjoy, you are gonna enjoy the job. But there's some days where you're working some crazy hours and you're dealing with some unreasonable people, and I think you do earn your money at the end of the day. And those really high figures that I was talking about, that's only the really top people that are earning lots of money, and they earn that, I think, because they're doing things better and they're making sacrifices that others won't. So yeah,
and I think that is the key point to take away to get into that top percentage, like anybody, sports, music, you have to commit yourself, that full hog. And it's hard. There's going to be sacrifices, and a lot of people don't want to make them. It's not that go to work every day, get paid, could be a good day, could be a bad day, your outcomes are variable, if you want to hit those targets. But the thing is, it is there if you want it, if you're that hungry, you can make it happen, and you have the power. And I suppose that's the real aspect of the whole podcast is, there's possibilities out there for everybody, to do what you want to do. And it's, it's an industry with lower barriers, I suppose. You've got to do a course, but you can actually get in there and, get stuck in. Because a lot of people don't see it as a career path, but you're a testament to that. 20 years, and it's evolved into developing and other aspects of a good career.
It is now more so a career path. Like when I started, it was rare that someone at 21 would get into real estate. It was like a real, it wasn't normal. But now there's a lot of younger people coming through and making it their career straight away. So it's definitely become that. And it's cool because it's kind of like, real estate's kind of like a personal development journey as well. Like you have to get better as a person with everything that you do. To make sure that you're achieving those goals you want to achieve. So it's a pretty cool industry.
That is a very good point for everybody, though. You need to be a better person all the time.
Yeah,
it's a great book. It's by, I think it's Malcolm Gladwell. It's called What Gets You Here Won't Get You There, and it's more of a business structure book, but it talks about people that living like a C-suite, might be a CEO or something, and the company wants them to be the next level, but they've got all these flaws, but they feel that because they got to this point, all of these things that they do is amazing, but those are the things they need to let go to get to the next level. If you take that into your personal life, it's the same principle, isn't it? You've got to make sure you do the reflection, do the hard work, and listen to others, bounce the ideas off them. Just say, like, am I a person that needs to do something differently? Some hard truths have to come out sometimes. But yeah, it's hard to ask the hard questions, and get honest feedback, because but that's where your network comes in. People are going to give you truths. Other business owners, podcasts like this are going to give you the hopefully some insights into what you want to do and help support that future. But yeah, it's been close to an hour now, so I think we've talked a lot. It's been amazing. We've probably both got lots of things to do. Your daughter, isn't it, will be waiting for you to come out.
Yeah, so you've got to sort of sort that out, and then I've got a million missed calls and stuff on the phone as well, so it never stops. But
has been beat. But that's all right.
It's beer time almost. So now, being Friday 4 o'clock, so we're not too far off a beer.
Yep. Thank you very much. Fitting in your time to talk to myself and everybody. It's very good, and I appreciate it. And hopefully some people get some insights out of this, and in the future, when I've done a few more episodes, it'll be interesting to come back and do some reflection and probably bounce another one off you, see where you are, and
Yeah, cool, mate. No, thanks very much for the invite. It's quite an honor to be asked, so thanks, Paul. And
no, that's good. We've obviously known each other for quite a few years now.
Yes,
and every time we talk, it's very interesting. So it's good to be able to talk to someone that you can just sort of flow with as well. That was the whole principle of trying to have this. So it's more of a conversation, but a meaningful one. That gives insight. So it's good to have a charismatic person. Is that the best way to put
it? I'll take it.
Yeah, mate. Okay, sweet. Thank you very much. I'll just stop this now.